Seeing the spirits of the Dragon Legion had Russell's adrenaline pumping. The pride and fervor in their eyes was so compelling that it could drive one crazy. They were whom Russell aspired to be. Their existence was fearsome. Although his regiment was at the forefront of the South War Zone, they were a far cry from the Dragon Legion. Russell and the others were seated at the observation deck. Everyone was waiting for the god of war of the Iron Brigade. If not for the regulations, Russell would have filmed everything. He was too excited. Everyone was waiting in silence. No one dared to speak a word the whole time. Finally, a car drove into the encampment and made its way quickly to the training base. Russell frowned when he saw the pink car from a distance. Where have I seen this car before? Isn't that Abigail's pink Maserati? The pink Maserati stopped at the training base. A girl alighted from the driver's seat. Isn't that Abigail? Russell was dumbstruck, and when he saw the person coming down from the passenger's seat, he nearly suffocated. Levi. It's actually him. What are they doing here? That person can't be him, right? For a moment, it was as if Russell's heart had stopped beating. Levi told Abigail to stay where she was as he walked step by step toward the Dragon Legion. Seeing Levi approaching, all the soldiers lifted their chins up and stood upright like a pike. Alfie and Mortimer jogged toward Levi and saluted him. Reporting, God of War. The Dragon Legion and the South Warzone Legion have assembled. Awaiting your instructions, sir. What? God of War? The group observing was mind-blown. No one had expected that the God of War of the Dragon Legion was the God of War himself. What was even more unbelievable to Russell was that Levi was the God of War. No wonder Levi acted so arrogant at the birthday banquet. No wonder Levi could present the special cigarettes and liquor of the Iron Brigade. No wonder Levi said he had Captain Steele deliver them. It's because Levi is the God of War. Levi came before the soldiers and commanded in a clear tone, at ease. The uniformed movements of thousands of soldiers were jaw-dropping. I'll keep this short. Since you've all come down from the front line, rest and reorganize, but training must still go on. You must always be ready for war. Levi lectured the Dragon Legion. He then looked at the Legion, smiling. The soldiers of Arudia are tough. And so is our Legion. Catch up on your training and be prepared at all times to sacrifice for the country. Despite Levi's brief speech, it ignited the fire in their hearts. God of War. God of War. Thousands of soldiers shouted vigorously. The scene was earth-shattering. It was definitely a scene Russell would never forget in this lifetime. After the inspection, Levi came toward Russell. Take a load of cigarettes and liquors with you later. But you should also advise Grandpa and Grandma not to drink too much, Levi said. Yes, yes, yes. Facing Levi again, Russell was so scared that he was drenched in sweat. Even his speech was stuttering. With that, the carload of special cigarettes and liquors were moved into Russell's car. Russell arrived at the Black family's residence. A carload of the Iron Brigade's special cigarettes and liquors? Did Russell send them back? My grandson is too capable. Oh, my God. God bless the Black family. The Black family was numb with shock when they saw Russell's car loaded with special cigarettes and liquors. Robert and Meredith's eyes twinkled. God has indeed blessed the Black family. My son is too amazing. Zayden praised. Robert and Meredith grasped Russell's hands, only to make him feel awkward because this had nothing to do with him at all. Grandpa, Grandma actually. This is enough, Russell, Meredith interrupted, thinking that Russell was trying to be modest. This carload of cigarettes and liquors are enough for the rest of our lives. Yeah, you don't have to say much, Russell. We understand. Robert patted on Russell's shoulders. On second thought, Russell stopped trying to explain. Remembering that he had signed a non-disclosure agreement to keep everything he saw a secret before leaving the South War Zone. Work hard, Russell. Your grandpa and I have decided to exhaust all our resources to nurture you, Meredith said. Quintus and the others were envious, and so were Aaron and Caitlin. Didn't Levi say he would send a carload of special cigarettes and liquors? Where is he? Robert asked Russell. So who did you meet today, Russell? Who's the god of war of the Iron Brigade? Yeah, tell us, Russell. We want to know. The Black family was curious. Russell gave a nervous titter. Grandpa, Grandma, as much as I want to tell you, I can never reveal his identity. I've signed a non-disclosure agreement. It even involves a non-disclosure agreement? Oh, God. Meredith and Robert looked at each other in the eye with a look of horror. But what I am sure of is, Russell continued, that the Black family will prosper from now on. So Grandpa, Grandma, you guys have to be nicer to all the aunts and uncles. Such as Aunt Caitlin and Uncle Aaron. There's only hope if the Black family unites. Because the god of war was the son-in-law of the Black family, and Russell could guarantee that. Hence, he specifically reminded them by mentioning their names. That's a given. Robert and Meredith promised. We've accepted Caitlin and Aaron again. They are one of us now. Hearing that, Aaron and Caitlin couldn't hold back their excitement. Thank you, Mom and Dad. Meredith flashed a look at them. You should thank Russell. Thank you, Russell, the both of them said in unison. Russell gave an awkward smile. But your son-in-law is not too bad, Meredith said, bethought of something. Mom clearly liked Levi's presence the most just now. How did it become not too bad in the blink of an eye? However, Caitlin was contented. At this time, Levi and Abigail had returned. Didn't you say you were gonna send another carload of special cigarettes and liquors, Levi? Logan sneered. Levi pointed at Russell's car. Didn't I have them deliver already? Just as Russell was about to speak, Logan shouted. Bullshit. Clearly, it was Russell who sent these back. What the hell has it got to do with you? Yeah. You're too much. All of us saw that it was Russell who sent these back. You do have credit today, but you can't just take Russell's credit. Everyone mouthed off at Levi. Russell was vexed, but he couldn't get a word in edgeways. He's a god. How could mere mortals judge him? The fact that you can get those special cigarettes and liquor means you are somewhat capable. As long as you act wisely, you could turn out quite well. But don't try to seek loopholes and indulge in petty tricks, Meredith said coldly, displeased with Levi's behavior. You two need to discipline him more. After all, Zoe has a bright future ahead of her, Robert said to Caitlin and Aaron. Yes, Mom and Dad. We understand. At their departure, Meredith asked, Russell, what do you think about Levi? Russell was scared stiff. How can I comment on this person? I still want to live. No comment, Russell replied. Logan, what do you think? Meredith asked again. Logan looked deep in thought. Levi is indeed capable, seeing how he could get his hands on the special cigarettes and liquor. But since he'd spent 6 years in jail, his powerful side has probably smoothed out. And he's picked up on many bad habits. I think it will be hard for Levi to develop. Meredith nodded in agreement. I think so too. The next day, everyone left one after another. When the Black family offered to give them a ride, Zoe rejected it and requested to take the high-speed rail instead. Mainly because she wanted to see what would happen to Levi at the security checkpoint. When they arrived at the security checkpoint, Zoe deliberately let Levi pass first. Seeing Levi pass through easily, they were stunned. "Come out and go in again," Zoe demanded. Levi had no choice but to enter again. However, the alarm still didn't go off. Zoe was taken aback. Have I really mistaken? In fact, the system had been rebooted since Levi left that day. He could easily pass through all security checkpoints now without sounding off the alarm. Just after getting on the high-speed rail, Alfie sent a message. "The big shots of the South Warzone and South City just knew about your arrival at South City." Levi had already left when they came to look for him. Levi replied immediately. "Tell them I'll definitely inform them the next time I visit South City." On the high-speed rail, Caitlin said, "Zoe, you should really consider the advice that your uncles have given." "What is it?" Levi asked. Aaron sighed. Zoe's uncles had suggested that she sever all ties with the Lopez family and establish a new company. "That's a great idea. She should have done that a long time ago." Levi raised both hands in favor of that suggestion. "They're a bunch of assholes who can never be satisfied." Aaron shook his head. "It won't be that easy. Dad has shares in Zoe's company. We'll have a tough row to hoe." Zoe was also worried about this. She knew Harry far too well. "Zoe, just go all out." "I'll handle it if there's any trouble," Levi said. He wasn't worried about the Lopez family now, but the retaliation of the Northampton Chamber of Commerce. Now that Levi Group was in his hands again, the Northampton Chamber of Commerce was bound to keep their guards up. After returning to Northampton, Kieran told him it was decided that Levi Group would merge with Garrisson Group after negotiation and be named Morris Group, in remembrance of Morris Atkinson. Levi would also use Morris Group to destroy the Northampton Chamber of Commerce. It was equivalent to Morris himself trampling the Northampton Chamber of Commerce. Levi understood that this would surely lead to objection from the Northampton Chamber of Commerce. But he would be there for the ceremony by then. The renaming of Levi Group had created a storm in the entire city, especially since it would be renamed to Morris Group. Anyone who knew the ins and outs of the situation knew. They were coming after the Rogers family and the Northampton Chamber of Commerce. It was an act of revenge. According to gossip, the person who now controlled Levi Group was Neil Atkinson, someone who had yet to appear in Northampton. Everyone was suspecting him to be a relative of Morris, because someone had discovered that Morris's parents had moved into the most expensive villa at Bayview Garden from the village, and that Zoe's Imperial Meadows Limited had been receiving a huge chunk of investments from Levi Group. The gossips had stated that the relationship between Neil and Morris was not so simple, and that Neil was aiming for the Northampton Chamber of Commerce. On a small island at Northampton's area lake, there were boats surrounding the island. On it stood hundreds of men in black with their waists bulging, obviously carrying a weapon. There were even military helicopters hovering in the sky from time to time, patrolling the perimeter. The worst part was that the entire scenic spot of Area Lake had been booked today. And the person who did the booking was on this small island. On the island were 6 elders who were sitting by the lake, quietly fishing. Behind them stood 11 people, which included 7 directors from the Northampton Chamber of Commerce, and 4 heirs of 4 noble families in Northampton, the Hendersons, Andersons, Williamsons, and Robinsons. The 4 elders fishing at the front were the current heads of the 4 biggest noble families: Wallace Henderson, Clifford Anderson, Baldwin Williamson, and Eric Robinson. They were the top 4 families on the list of the wealthiest families in Northampton. The 4 elders were even more powerful than Glenn from the Rogers family. While the Rogers family's wealth amounted to $50 billion, the Hendersons, Andersons, Williamsons, and Robinson's wealth amounted to 100 billion. Together, they had established the Northampton Chamber of Commerce. In short, they had occupied almost half of Northampton's economic lifeline. They were the real juggernauts of Northampton. The two other elders who were fishing with them were no less than they were. Grover Cook, who had now retired, was once the governor of Northampton. He had many disciples, and his descendants all held important positions in Northampton. Even the current governor, Jesse Nielsen, was his student. Jesse would often go to Grover to seek advice because there was a saying that Grover's words could make people grovel at his feet. The other elder was Xander Hoyles, the vice commander-in-chief of the Northampton War Zone. Due to a transfer order, the position of commander-in-chief of the Northampton War Zone had been vacant, which meant that Xander was the leader of the Northampton War Zone now. The two of them were friends and classmates with Eric and the others. It wasn't uncommon for them to meet up for fishing. On the small island not far away was a platoon of guards. Any little decision made by these 6 elders was influential enough to shake up the entire Northampton. It was indeed the case, because many things in Northampton were conferred by the 6 of them. If the 4 wealthiest families in Northampton Chamber of Commerce could achieve such success, it was needless to say that their connections ramified all over Northampton. From war zones to towns, everywhere had traces of the Northampton Chamber of Commerce. Hence there was this saying that messing with the Northampton Chamber of Commerce was akin to messing with Northampton's foundation. They were different from the Rogers family. It wouldn't be so easy to destroy them. Besides, if the Northampton Chamber of Commerce were to be destroyed, they still had Grover and Xander at the top. According to this situation, it was simply impossible for them to be destroyed. But they didn't expect that their opponent was Levi, the only 5-star god of war in history. The god of war would crush everything. At this moment, Eric suddenly caught a fish. After putting it in the basket, he looked at Grover and Xander, smiling. "Grover, Xander, have you two heard about the recent events in Northampton?" The grizzled-haired Grover moved his fishing rod and said with a little doubt, "Are you talking about the matter with Director Alaric Taylor of the Northampton Chamber of Commerce, or the matter with the renaming of Levi Group to Morris Group?" Grover might be retired, but he still had everything under control. Wallace gave him a meaningful look. "I suppose you can look at these matters as one? You're suggesting that Neil Atkinson of Levi Group is behind all this?" asked Xander. Clifford nodded. "Most likely. According to our investigations, Neil should be Morris's uncle. He's changing the name of Levi Group to Morris Group to help Morris Atkinson's best friend, Levi Garrisson. That's why they invested in Zoe and even took care of Alaric and Charles. We've questioned the Rogers family in the past for a few days, but they remained silent about relinquishing the Garrison family's properties and Levi Group," Baldwin said. "They only warned us to be careful, saying that we've met our match this time." In a word, Eric summed up, "This mysterious Neil Atkinson is a powerful man. He's definitely something to be able to send Alaric to jail and retake Levi Group and Garrison Group from the Rogers family's hands." Those were the information that the 4 noble families had obtained. It was considered intimidating because other enterprises and families had yet to know about the change of ownership of Levi Group. "To be honest, I've known you guys for over 10 years now, and I've never seen such somber expression on all 4 of your faces," Xander suddenly chuckled. Grover nodded. "Exactly. It's my first time seeing you guys like this. It means that Neil Atkinson is really stressing you out." "Sure, there's stress, but it's just enough to get our attention," Wallace smiled. "He can't threaten us." Eric stroked his long white beard, chortling. "That is without a doubt. No one can mess with the Northampton Chamber of Commerce." Xander nodded. That's right. There's no way they can break apart the Northampton Chamber of Commerce. Metaphorically speaking, the Garrison family and the Rogers family were just growing saplings that could be uprooted by manpower, while the Northampton Chamber of Commerce was a 10,000-year-old tree. That would probably require 10 people to encircle it. It would be impossible to uproot it based on manpower alone. Clifford flashed a cruel smile. Although there isn't a threat, Neil Atkinson is really a thorn in the flesh. We must get rid of him as soon as possible. Understanding the meaning behind his words, Grover and Xander smiled. We can still find out his identity for you guys. With that, Xander suddenly caught a fish and threw it into Clifford's basket. Just like this. I caught a fish for you, and it's up to you whether you want to release it or cook it. He was comparing the fish to Neil. The four of them nodded.